Welcome to the walkthrough video for TacTile. TacTile is an abstract strategy engine building game for 2 to 4 players aged 8 and up. So this is a starting setup for a standard TacTile game. To begin, you want to place each of the 4 black tiles in the 4 corners of a 6x6 grid. Then take the remaining wooden tiles, shuffle them, and randomize them to fill out the rest of the grid. In this case, I have it set up photogenically for the video, but normally there will be kind of random clumps of colors. Then you want to take each player's pawns and place them on their corresponding home tile, and give each player a reference card and matching colored basic action tokens to fit their color. Then you want to take the 120 action cards, shuffle them, and deal 6 to form a card market. Place the remaining as a draw pile close at hand. Finally, you want to take the resources, separate them by color and shape, and form 4 piles close by the board. When you're finished, the setup should look something like this. TacTile is a game that supports 2 to 4 players. In a 2-player setup, both players would need to start diagonally from each other. So yellow could play against blue, or red could play against green. Start with both of your pawns on your home tile, and your objective is to take both of your pawns and score them in your opponent's home tile. So in this case, yellow is trying to score both pawns in blue, and blue is trying to score both pawns in yellow. Once a pawn is scored, it is out of the game, can no longer be used for any actions. Once you score your second pawn, the game is over and you win. In a 3-player game, you would now add a 3rd player, and the objective changes slightly. Players are now needing to score 1 pawn in each home tile that is adjacent to them. So yellow would need to score 1 pawn in the red home and 1 pawn in the green home. All the other players are attempting to do the same thing, so the red player needs to score 1 pawn in the yellow home and 1 pawn in the blue home. And the blue player needs to score 1 pawn in the red home and 1 pawn in the green home. The final game mode is 4-player. In 4-player, the game is now a team battle. The person on your diagonal is now your ally, and you have a shared win condition. So in this case, blue would be on the same team as yellow, red would be on the same team as green. In 4-player, you are still trying to score diagonally, so green needs to score in the red home, red needs to score in the green home, and as a team, you need to collectively score 3 out of your 4 pawns. So this could mean green scores both of their pawns while red scores one of theirs, or vice versa, red scores both of their pawns while green scores one of theirs. In this game mode, one thing to watch out for is that if you do score both of your pawns, but you haven't won the game yet, you are now out of the game and your turn is now skipped. Now that we know how to win, how do we take a turn? On your turn, you can take 2 basic actions out of a possible 5. You cannot repeat the same basic action. You can use these 2 basic action tokens to keep track of your actions so you don't repeat actions. The first basic action you can take is called a move action. A move action allows you to move a pawn to an adjacent available tile. Moves can be up or down, left or right, no diagonal movements. Pawns cannot share tiles with each other, so you can physically block yourself and other pawns by being in their way. The exception to this being the home and score tiles where multiple pawns can share the same space. However, you cannot move on to a black tile that is not your home or score tile. That's considered out of play for the game. The second basic action you can take is called a gain action. A gain action allows you to gain a resource matching a tile that you're on. In this position, I could gain a red resource. However, if I was on multiple colors, I could choose to gain either a red or a yellow resource. Gaining 1 resource is a gain action. The third basic action you can take is called a buy action. A buy action allows you to purchase a card that is for sale in the card market. There are always 6 cards for sale in the card market. They always cost 2 resources. It's always some combination of the 4 resource types. Spending 2 resources to purchase a card is a buy action. So for this red and yellow resource, I could purchase this red move or this red push. The fourth basic action you can take is called swap action. The swap action allows you to swap a resource you own with any other resource from the bank. For example, I could swap this red resource for a yellow one. In 4-player games, the swap action has an alternate ability. I could either do the resource swap, or I could swap a card I own with one of my allies' cards. Now this must be a swap. We both need to have cards. We cannot simply give a card for nothing. However, it allows me to exchange my gain for my ally's move. If my ally happens to be eliminated, I can still use the swap action on my turn to swap cards with their tableau. The 5th basic action you can take is called a reset action. The reset action allows me to reset the card market. That means I can discard all 6 cards for sale and draw 6 new cards. If we ever run into a scenario where 5 or more of the cards are either the same color, like 5 or more yellow cards, or the same type, like 5 or more move cards, that would be an automatic reset. We would discard all 6 cards and draw 6 new cards immediately, and nobody would have to pay an action. Now that you understand how the basic actions work, you must be wondering, what do the cards do? Basically, the cards give you free actions. Move cards give you another free movement. Gain cards give you a free gain or free resource collection. And push cards allow you to move another person's pawn. This could be a defensive push, as in pushing an opponent backwards, or an offensive push, as in pushing an ally forward. So how do these free actions work? Well, the way it works is when you move onto a tile that matches the color of cards you own, those cards activate and give you a free action. Card actions can be activated once per turn and refresh at the beginning of each turn, which means as long as you can keep moving on those tiles, you can keep using those card actions every single turn. Cards are permanent additions to your tableau, which means as the game goes on and on and on, you'll be able to build up more and more actions for more and more powerful turns as long as you can move on the right tiles. Let's see how it works in action. So the first thing you need to do is you need to move onto a tile to trigger these activities. So your first basic action needs to be a move action. Say I move this pawn onto a yellow tile, that would activate all of my yellow cards. So I would get a free move and a free push. Now I want to be able to move onto this green tile to activate my green gain, but it's blocked. However, I can use my push ability to go ahead and push my opponent back, which allows me to use my free movement action on either one of my pawns and be able to move onto a green tile to activate my green gain so I can get a free resource. Now I can gain from either pawn, so I could either get a green or a yellow resource. In this case, I will choose to gain a yellow resource, and that would use up all my cards for this turn. I still have another basic action, so I could still take one more action, and that would be the end of my turn. On my next turn, all my cards would simply reset, so if I'm able to move on yellow and green again, I can take these actions again. And that closes the lid on this walkthrough video for TacTile.